Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the recent dividend distributions. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so I'm going to take a break today from the Grayscale Trust and just talk about the dividend paying stocks that were recently announced. As you guys can see here, the portfolio was kind of swinging pretty hard in both directions here today. Again, we do have some options plays that are currently on the books that are kind of affecting the potential gain and loss here. You can see a ton of call debit spreads, also some puts, some calls, stuff like that. So yeah, pretty much just kind of all over the place. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we're still in that kind of seasonality of uncertainty. Again, October, November, December, generally speaking, is very bullish every single year. The only kind of wild card, so to speak, is the election year. And again, we are in an election year. The elections haven't actually happened yet. There's international conflict going on, and we also have the port strikes. So there's some level of uncertainty going on. I think we'll be just fine, and we will come out of the other side better off closer towards the end of the year. So you can see the different positions we have. So we got OARC, Coney, GUI, MRNY. I do think this one's actually going to recover because Moderna is massively oversold. It's actually double tapped the oversold signal on the RSI on the weekly time frame. Actually, as a matter of fact, since I'm on here, I can show you guys that real quick. Okay, so I'm going to go over to Moderna and go to the weekly time frame. So yeah, you guys can see that this thing is just absolutely getting pounded into the ground. So, and keep in mind, this is on the weekly time frame. So we have one oversold signal last October, and we have another one again. It's not like really deep into oversold, but I mean, it might as well be pretty much oversold at this point. So roughly about a year later, again, oversold. So last time this thing nearly doubled in price, or tripled in price, I should say. Last time it was oversold. So in my opinion, this thing is pretty much due for some massive upside at this point, which should reflect in the price of MRNY. So we got the 70 shares of TSLP. We took a little bit of profit out of this and repositioned back in a certain percentage of our initial position. So we took 10 shares off the table, plus the profit, and we moved that money into QDTE. And then you guys can see we have FEPI, YMAX. We still have YMAX. We have NVIDIA, MSTY, Tesla, SoundHound, Mara, which is a Bitcoin miner, CLSK, another Bitcoin miner. We have one share of DJT. We're certainly considering buying more. I mean, it's so cheap at this point. Why not? QDTE. So you can see we added to our stack in here. Again, the indices are more diversified. They're much more safe than single stock ETFs. Or I should say they're less volatile, is what I mean to say. We used to have PLTR, considering getting back in, but not just yet. AMC, SPYT, YBIT, YMAG, AIPI, XDTE, and eventually we're going to add more to GPIC and GPIX. All right, so let's go over the actual dividends. By the way, on the M1 Finance account, we do have so we have some OARC on Webull. It's not pulled up right now, but we'll talk about it during the buy, sells, and dividends video this weekend. So we have that. I think we still have, we should still have NVIDIA and TSLY on M1 Finance. Okay, so in terms of the dividends here, so we got QDTE. You can see the current distribution rate, 31%. Again, this does pay on a weekly basis, so there is that. The assets under management is actually not bad. I mean, it's not huge, but it's a start, 441 million. So this fund has been out for roughly about 7 months, which again is not really that long in the dividend world. Usually most dividend investors look for something that's been around for a while, like 2, 3, 4 years, and has a track record of performance. But again, this is based on the indices, so I'm not really too concerned about it. And then, so the current price is roughly about $42. So it is coming back somewhat, but again, we kind of need the indices to start pushing all-time highs, which should happen by the end of the year. So as of right now, 0.217 cents, so basically about 22 cents. A lot of people would complain and say, oh, well, that's not that much. This is only 21 cents a week per share. I mean, guys, it's a $42 stock, and you're getting 80, in this case, over 85 cents a month. What can I compare this to? I think something that I could compare it to would be something like JEPI is actually more expensive than QDTE. And as far as I know, JEPI only, JEPI, not JEPY, JEPI only pays like roughly about 40, 50, maybe sometimes 30 cents a month. So yeah, a more expensive ETF that pays less than this. I mean, this is not that bad. 85 cents is actually still pretty good, even if it is on the low end, in my opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but in my opinion, I think it's actually still quite good. Again, 31% distribution rate is very high. Most people that have been in the dividend investing world for a long time are used to, on the high yielding side, used to getting somewhere between like 7, 8 to maybe 15, 18%, somewhere in there. Okay, so XDTE, 18.5%. The Nasdaq is kind of lagging a little bit behind the S&P, unfortunately, so that's why QDTE's price is not as high as the S&P, or the XDTE, I should say. What's interesting, though, is even though the yield is lower, which I find to be quite curious, the payout is actually higher. So that's very interesting. So 23 cents. And if I look at the price here, you can see the price is much more expensive, so almost 53. And this one does not have as many assets under management. But again, a lot of people that are investing in these prefer the NASDAQ version because it's much more volatile. So therefore, it usually pays more in options premiums. So pretty good in my book. I can't complain. Okay, so RDTE, this is the newest one. So we don't have an actual distribution percentage yet, but I'm going to take a guess that it's probably going to be pretty astronomical because the Russell is the small cap index, and the small cap index usually, even though they are the smallest cap, lowest float, most volatile, and most risky stocks, they usually have extreme volatility, and they do sometimes outperform the larger caps, like the MAG 7 and whatnot. So because of that, the options premium should actually be quite high, which means these payouts should be pretty sizable. They should be pretty up there. Okay, so 0.386 cents. Again, that's massive. If you have basically 100 shares, you're looking at almost 39 cents a week. I'll just round this up and call it 39 cents a week. I mean, you're essentially looking at $1.56 a month per share, which again is massive. I mean, the only other ETF that we have that pays that much that's diversified is AIPI. And yeah, AIPI even is more expensive than this. It's like $50 a share right now. Okay, so the YieldMax ETFs, you guys can see that there is they kind of switched up the schedule for the payments here a little bit. So we have basically YMAX YMAG is paying weekly. They had to kind of group these single stocks in different sections, different being paid out in different weeks of the month. So basically this would be the first week, this would be the second week, this should theoretically be the third week. Yeah, it looks like the third week, and this should be the fourth week. So they had to spread these out, as far as I know, to be able to actually pay weekly on the YMAX and YMAGs. So if you guys are wondering why that is, that's why that is. So we should get paid according to the Group A, which again comes at the end of this week, or basically the declaration was today, but we get paid out at the end of the week. You would get paid for Tesla Crash, which I believe is the inverse Tesla, GUI, YBIT, OARC, XOMO, SNOY, and TSMY. So we'll get paid from Tesla, GUI, YBIT, and OARC this week. NVIDIA comes next week, and then so we have NVIDIA and MRNY for next week, and then the following week, Coney, which is the only one we have in that group, and then the last week would be MSTY, which is also the only one that we have in that group. Okay, so in terms of the actual payouts coming up at the end of this week, so we got just shy of 21 cents for YMAX, 16.5 cents for YMAG. Tesla's eye-popping 100% dividend here. This is absolutely nuts. But again, if I go back and I take a look at the chart of Tesla with you guys can see why the premium was so insanely high this week. I mean, this thing has just been like stupid in terms of volatility this week. It just recently had a big technical breakout, which is part of the reason. You guys can see that right here. This was a little while ago. Again, you got that inverse head and shoulders and then bang, straight to the upside. Of course, we have earnings coming up for Tesla, so that's probably part of the reason why is it's being bought up into the earnings and the whole robo-taxi thing and all that jazz. So you guys can see over the last week, I mean, this thing has been quite volatile. About 8% in movement. That's a lot. And Tesla itself, if you happen to have 100 shares, does actually pay pretty nice dividend or pretty nice options premiums. I can't remember exactly what it is. So basically $1.09 here, which as far as I know is actually the largest ever payout they've done per share. Crash 98 cents, 25 cents on GUI, 79 cents on YBIT, 40 cents or 41 cents roughly on ORC. Zomo 25 cents. Of course, oil is skyrocketing to the moon right now because of the international conflict going on. So this one right here may actually pay out more premiums next month. The Snowflake one, and then you have Taiwanese semiconductors. So these ones payments aren't that bad. Zomo being relatively low. Again, I'm not surprised. Oil kind of was consolidating mostly at lows until the recent attack that happened overseas. And then, of course, oil just went bonkers today and yesterday. So we're expecting pretty much between all of these payouts to get roughly about $650. I think roughly about $650 this week just from those. So that's definitely nice. The other thing I did want to show you guys here too as well. So if you don't really want to own Tesla, or we also own TSLP, which is kind of a lower yielding, more stable NAV kind of ETF. If you don't want to own any of those or something like TSLL or whatever, another way to do it, which would require a lot more capital. Again, if you wanted to do cash secured puts and cover calls on Tesla, you have to have 100 shares of the stock, which is currently about $25,000. That's a lot of money, but if you have it, you can get access to that. Again, Robinhood does give you 2x leverage, so if you're qualified to actually get it, you would only need about $13,000 to actually do this. But that's actually not true, because when you use leverage on Robinhood, they actually they take the equal amount. If you do a cash secured put, they basically take 2x whatever the cost of the trade would be. So if it costs $25,000 to buy the shares and do a cover call, it's going to cost you $50,000 to do a cash secured put. So that's the only exception there. So you guys can see going just even 9 days out, if I were to go to like a 30 delta, again, this is if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, then maybe you might want to wait for some kind of huge pullback on Tesla for the shares to get a little bit cheaper to get in. That's up to you, but you guys can basically see on the cover call side. Again, this is for a 10-day time frame, so there's typically about 30 days in a month. So you'd be looking at, for just one contract, about $1,700 as of right now of monthly income. And then on the cash secured put side, which again, you would need 2x, basically 100 shares times the share price, you can see it's pretty much about the same. So 600, again, this is $6 times 100 shares. So it's actually $600 in premiums times 3 would give you about $1,800 on the month. All right. So this was the YieldMax dividend declarations in XDTE, QDTE, and RDTE. Hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.